handle your breathing. Try that, see if you can feel it. Yeah, you can. Oh, that's good. Yeah. You can dilute it with that. That's good. I'm gonna keep it.
Yeah, so that pretty much has a whole bottle of tea.
Which just means I
We win.
Really good. All right. Step up to the plate if you're over here in the extraction area. Kimmy, close in your honey?
Yeah, we extracted some the night before last. So we only got, I don't know, like 2 gallons or something right now.
She's somebody you could ask about. She knows just about as much.
I do, it's because in this family, their husband is in our family. My mom
And their sons into it too. So that's another thing that y'all should consider too. If you're gonna get into beekeeping, there's local associations that can help you out. For us, the closest one is Bass Hopper or there's one in Bass Hopper, there's one in Georgetown, there's one in Elgin. Anyways, they're like 45 minutes away. So I have 4 kids, and we both work full time. So in addition to the honey dip, so we have a lot of time for that. But it is a good thing to do to start. And I think especially the kids, after they graduate from the apprentice program, they'll get them wooden wares for the high bodies and stuff like that. That's part of it. So it's great people. It's certainly something you should do if you ever decide you want to get into it. Meeting the local people means a lot. Like, so developing those relationships, like with Ron, Kim, and Chase is doing it now too, and Stan's been out here, and so finding people that you can kind of bounce ideas off of. Because the internet is great, there's tons of resources on the internet, but everybody's an expert on the internet, and they're going to tell you exactly how to do it, even if that maybe isn't the right way for you in your area. So there's not a true right way, I guess, to do one thing. So everybody has their own experiences and their own way of doing things. So anyway, so we'll start here. We still have a bunch more of these to process, but for purposes of this, we can't have 10 of these high bodies and 15 of these to process. But this kind of gives you an example. So this is this would be a medium box. We refer to this as a super, and these frames would go on top of the deep body boxes. So this is a full body box, a deep. And this is a 10 frame deep. Some people run 8 frame deeps. Some people run all mediums, right? So what this does is after you have your deep bodies on the bottom normally houses your bees and your brood, your eggs, things of that nature for actually supporting the hive. After you get into a situation where you have a lot of drawn out frames in your bottom deep, and then possibly you can have a secondary deep on top, and you have drawn out frames and honey stores and brood. You can put these on top as the third box, and that's exclusively for your honey. So when you pull it off, there's no harm to the bees themselves because they have plenty of honey stores, and all of their brood is located down below. You can make sure you prevent that because sometimes they do go up into the super and start laying eggs. They have what's called a honey excluder. Queen excluder. People call it a honey excluder as a joke because they say it doesn't work. But a queen excluder, I don't use them because I haven't ever had an issue with laying in the upper super yet. But the queen excluder is spaced in a way that the worker bees can get up into the top, but the queen cannot. So what we'll do, we'll pull a couple of these, and this kind of gives you an idea. This is a deep body frame. You can see the difference between them in size, right?
And so we have two different BRs. One's like this
And
way,
this-
and the other one is on top of and go this way.
There's one bee in there.
And they're all, we have 3 different people that we buy bees from. And
This
it's
is capped honey, right? So that's how you can tell that the honey is ready to be processed. Honey before it's ready to go, it's called nectar, and it has a higher water content. So this will give you an idea of what nectar would look like, right? So these frames, actually these are just dry frames. But if they're not capped like that, that would be nectar and it's not ready to be harvested honey yet, because it has a higher water content. There are some frames in here that are going to have some open spots. But if you blend it with, with all of the other frames, you don't have that issue with higher water content. If you do have a lot of water content in your honey, what can happen is your honey can spoil. It actually can go bad if you have a lot of water content in it.
Is that too much rain, or what? How does that? Is that normal occurrence, or not really?
With the nectar? So it's all a process of aging the nectar, right? So that the bees will actually age it and they'll cap it. So when you see this on top and it's a sealed cell, that means it's honey and it's ready to be harvested. Here's an example of brood. These are eggs here. This was actually out of a nuke that we got this year. We got a nuke this year and it filled the entire, look, there's our bee. It filled our entire second easy. Yep, on motion. And if you want to try one of the other tools, you're more than welcome to. You want to see how they work differently. Hey, also, watch your head if I haven't already mentioned that. Oh, I like this one here. So this, you're just going to take it, and you're just going to take the key pin, just draw it down. And as you're going to get a little deeper than I just did, and it'll start pulling it
Oh,
out.
I see, okay. So you don't have to be too gentle.
I knew that's what it was. It's not really new.
Central Market and Whole Foods on Linden.
Awesome. Yeah. Who else would like to try?
You're already ready.
You want to try the hot knife? Okay. You're going to take the knife at the bottom, and you're going to start working your way up there, okay? Like that. See that? Now watch out, that knife is...
Oh, you're okay.
If you want to use it the other way, you can. You want to try the other tool? Or you want to finish that all the way out? Let's try the other one? Pull it down.
I guess we don't have a lot to do then.
You can get too deep in it to pull a lot of the honey out, but just scrape the top of it. And then if you get to this point and you have all these little problem, I didn't know, learning, we got we got to be honeybound, which someone said, you're honeybound. I thought, well, that's great.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's not good, apparently. What it means is, during the nectar flow, your bees, the worker bees, packed all the lower cells with honey, with nectar, and they didn't leave any room for your queen to lay any eggs, right? So you really want, everybody will tell you differently on this, but the person I bought my nukes from this year, some nukes that I bought this year, said that you want about 8 or 9 frames of brood in your colony. So, meaning in your deep box on the bottom, you should have 8 or 9 frames worth of eggs. And in that bottom deep box, if you had 2 frames of honey, in this area, 2 to 3 frames of honey is going to carry you through the winter. So you don't have a terrible winter. And you can feed sugar water after the flow is over to help them build up stores as well. And that's what you do for young colonies. You're going to be feeding them sugar water just to make sure they have something to consume.
So how often do you go out and check
Go ahead.
the bottom, the bottom box and that to make sure nothing's out of order?
So you really want to check. I check 2 or 3 times a week, but I'm crazy on that. Some people check, but I don't check the bottom deep. Sometimes I just pop open the lid to see what they're drawing out and see what it looks like. You did an awesome job. See, I gave you a really good piece that has like a lot of color.
It's like perfect.
Anyway, the guy that advocated the single deep box with excluder that's well known, he said he checks his every 7 days. And the reason that's important, if you're especially this time of year or a little earlier this year, if you're gonna see a swarm about to happen, you'll see queen cells. They'll be producing cells that are gonna be producing a queen, so you'll know that your hive is getting ready to leave. You don't even really have to use another tool, but you can use that and just scrape if you want. Some of those little caps.
So how do you keep your hive from leaving?
Well, if they swarm, they're not necessarily leaving. They're just splitting, and you're losing half. You're losing some of the quantity on it. So swarming is a natural process. You're probably not going to prevent it all. Some people say there's ways you can prevent it all. I doubt that.
Can you make them come to? It's like, can you make them go to your box?
Yeah.
Like,
Swarm
come to my
traps,
box.
Who were we talking about that with? If you put swarm traps out on your property, you may collect a feral hive or even a production hive that's left there. Somebody else's hive that they bought.
Exactly is a trap.
It's pretty simple. It's like a hive. You're just putting a hive out.
When it's empty,
On my swarm traps,
like birdhouse.
yeah, you should. You don't see them as much. My grandpa used to always say that he thought that all bees had some level of Africanized because there's a lot of so people will tell you they have a Italian hive or they have a Russian hive, which may be the case if they bought it from a true Russian breeder that bred only with Russian bees. But what happens when the queen goes out to breed? She's a virgin queen. She's leaving the hive for her mating flight. She breeds with somewhere between 10 to 20 male breeding bees from different colonies. So what genetics are you getting from those bees that are just out in, a mile away from your hive? Who knows? So when you say you have a certain breed of bees, that's hard to determine. As far as Africanized bees are concerned, I know that Megan's dad has a place in Cotulla, Texas, South Texas, and he had a bunch of hives that he wanted to get rid of, and I was going to go take them, for mine. If they weren't Africanized, they were just really, really mad at me.
These are really mean bees.
They would chase you for like mine. If you leave the hive area and you go a half a mile away, they leave you alone, right? These, they just kept following you and just after you.
Do they produce honey?
Do what?
Do the Africanized bees produce honey?
Yeah, they're pretty good honey producers, yeah. Some of my meanest hives are my best hives for honey production.
I believe it.
They're hard workers.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, it doesn't like water, it's like rocky.
You'll see the honey start to get spun against the side. See it? As it's spinning out of those frames.